Every once in a while, a company pulls off this incredible U-turn that just makes you stop and pay attention. Well, today, we're digging into retail marketing firm Shopper360. They just dropped their latest results, and the change from last year is, well, it's night and day. So let's break down exactly what happened.
Okay, just look at this. It really is a tale of two halves. On one side, you've got a loss of over 1 million ringgit. Then, the next year, bam, a profit of over 600,000. I mean, that's not just a small improvement. That is a complete 180-degree reversal of fortune in a single year. This is the kind of stuff that gets investors talking.
So, the big question is, how on earth do you pull that off? How does a company engineer a swing of almost 2 million ringgit on its bottom line? Well, it's never just dumb luck, right? There has to be a plan. So let's pop the hood and see the specific, deliberate moves that took them from deep in the red to solidly in the black.
Now, before we go any further, let's just put a name on what we're seeing. This is a classic profit turnaround. It's that critical moment where a company finally stops losing money, stops the bleeding, and actually starts earning again. For any business that's struggling, this is the absolute goal. And trust me, it is not easy to do.
Shopper360's game plan wasn't some super complex 12-dimensional chess. It was actually pretty straightforward, but man, was it effective. Think of it like a 1-2 punch. First, they got really precise, almost surgical with cutting costs. And at the exact same time, they were pushing hard for smart, targeted growth. Let's see how that played out.
So this strategy really boils down to a two-pronged attack. First up, let's talk about the subtraction part of the equation, what they decided to cut.
Okay, so step one was all about trimming the fat. The company made a really tough call, but a necessary one. They completely exited their operations in Myanmar, which were just bleeding money. On top of that, they kicked off a big cost control push across the entire group, basically turning over every rock to find savings.
And get this, the result of all that trimming? A whopping 1.5 million ringgits in savings from administrative costs alone. Just think about that number for a second. That one move, that one decision, almost single-handedly explains the entire swing from a big loss to a profit. It just goes to show you how much that one unprofitable operation was dragging the whole company down.
But here's the thing, right? You can't shrink your way to greatness. Cutting costs is like patching the holes in a sinking ship. It stabilizes you. But growth is what gets you moving forward again. So while Shopper360 was getting leaner, it was also laser-focused on growing its total revenue in the right places.
So to really understand that growth, we got to quickly break down their business model. The company's basically split into two main parts. Let's see where the money's actually coming from. All right, so you've got two main streams here. First, there's the absolute giant, sales, execution, and distribution, bringing in over 84 million ringgit. Then you have the much smaller advertising and marketing arm. So when we talk about growth, it's crystal clear where the heavy lifting happened. It was right there, in that dominant core part of the business.
And this is where the plot really thickens. That main business, sales execution, grew by a powerful 13.8%. But at the very same time, the advertising and marketing side actually shrank by 9%. This tells us a crucial story. The company's core engine was just firing on all cylinders, so much so that it completely papered over the weakness in the other segment.
Okay, so the company has stabilized the ship. It's no longer taking on water. But where is it sailing next? Let's take a look at what management sees on the horizon, both the clear skies and the potential storms.
On the opportunity side, they're spotting some really interesting trends. They see a big opening as shopping becomes this mix of online and in-store experiences. Brands are desperate for better data on their in-store ads, they're focusing more on neighborhood malls, and they're shifting from just one-off ads to building long-term customer loyalty. Shopper360 thinks it's perfectly positioned to capitalize on all of this.
But it's not all smooth sailing. And to their credit, they're being very open about the headwinds. They're watching out for a tight labor supply and rising wages, competitors getting really aggressive on price, and clients making faster, sometimes unpredictable decisions. Having this kind of balanced, realistic outlook is exactly what you want to see.
So after looking at the cost-cutting, the targeted growth, and the road ahead, what's the big picture? What's the core story here of Shopper360's turnaround?
I think this quote from management just sums up their strategy perfectly. They're basically saying, the market is shifting. People want simple, dependable partners who get results. And their answer is, that's us. That's our lane.
They're not trying to be the flashiest player in the game. They're focused on being the most reliable. And in a cautious economy, that's a very smart place to be.
If there's one thing we can say for certain, it's that Shopper360 has demonstrated a whole new level of financial and operational discipline. They made the hard calls, they exited an unprofitable business, and they tightened their belts. That solid foundation is now in place.
And that leaves us with the big question moving forward. The cost-cutting phase? That's pretty much done. The heavy lifting in one of their business segments has clearly paid off. But the challenge now is to reignite growth in their advertising and marketing segment and prove that this turnaround isn't just a one-off event, but the start of a new, sustainable growth story. That's the chapter investors will be watching next.